Have you ever wondered how we find the next great scientific revolution? Is it just some random bolt of lightning? Or is there actually a way to see it coming? Well, today we're going to explore a really cool idea that there's a kind of map to these incredible discoveries.
So, yeah, how do you spot a breakthrough before it's on the cover of every science journal? The big idea we're digging into is that these huge discoveries aren't random at all. They actually leave clues. Think of it like a treasure map, pointing us to where that intellectual gold is just waiting to be found. And of course, every good treasure map needs a legend, right? Something to tell you what the symbols mean. For our map, that legend is a set of 8 hidden markers. These are the telltale signs that a field of science is just ripe for a massive breakthrough. So what are these markers? Well, think of them as clues in a detective story. First, you'll see a field is totally fragmented. The same basic idea keeps popping up in biology and AI and economics, but everyone's using different words for it. Then there's a hidden connection, a deep sameness between two things that just nobody has put together yet. You might also spot the exact same mathematical patterns showing up in completely unrelated areas. Another huge clue? Multi-scale behavior. That's when the same dynamics are playing out in a single cell and in an entire ecosystem. Then you've got the big ones, paradoxes and anomalies, the stuff that current theories just can't explain. You'll also see different scientists in different fields independently inventing the same core idea over and over. Often, there's a key concept that's so new it doesn't even have a name yet, a missing abstraction. And finally, the topic is usually a kind of scientific Wild West. Nobody really owns it. When you see a bunch of these signs together, you know a massive idea is just waiting to be discovered. Okay, so now we have our map and our legend. Let's actually put them to the test. We're going to apply these 8 markers to 5 super interesting, kind of underexplored areas of science that are showing all the signs of a potential breakthrough. And just look at the sheer scope here. We are not talking about small, incremental steps. We're talking about a universal theory of attention, which could literally give us a unified theory of consciousness, or a physics of influence fields to help us predict complex social behavior. How about a general theory of collapse? Just think about how important that is, understanding why systems, from economies to ecosystems, break down. Then there's this idea of boundary science that might just unify biology and AI. And finally, a totally new science of stability that could redefine our understanding of life itself. The potential payoffs here are just absolutely massive. Now, all 5 of these are fascinating, for sure, but here's where it gets really interesting. 2 of them aren't just promising on their own. They're actually on a collision course, and the spot where they intersect, well, that's where things get really exciting. So for the rest of our journey today, we're going to zoom in on those 2 clues from our map, the hunt for universal theory of attention and the strange, fascinating science of what's called stability without equilibrium. So on the one hand, you've got attention. It's this active process of selecting what matters. It's how any system, from your brain to a supercomputer, decides what to focus on. Then, on the other hand, you've got stability without equilibrium. This is the deep puzzle of how something, like a living person, can stay coherent and whole while all of its parts are in constant motion. At first glance, they seem like they have nothing to do with each other. But what if they're 2 sides of the very same coin? Let's get really clear on what we mean by attention. We are not just talking about you paying attention to this explainer right now. We are talking about a universal organizing principle. It's what's happening when your immune cells attend to a virus, or when an AI model attends to the most important word in a sentence. It is a fundamental process of selection that happens absolutely everywhere. And then you have stability without equilibrium. You see, most of classical physics is about things that are in a settled state, a rock at the bottom of a valley, totally stable. But life isn't like that at all. Living things, societies, or climate, they're always changing, yet they somehow maintain their identity. How can you stay you when literally every cell in your body is replaced over time? It's a dynamic kind of stability, one that comes from constant adjustment, not from sitting still. And right here, this is where our 2 paths on the map finally start to merge. It turns out the answer to one of these great puzzles might just be the other puzzle. The source material we're looking at puts it perfectly. It says, this is where the lightning strike happens. It's that amazing aha moment, that flash of insight where 2 completely separate ideas smash together to create something totally new and way more powerful. And here it is, the core insight. It's actually breathtakingly simple. A system can't maintain that dynamic stability, that incredible ability to stay the same while constantly changing, unless it has a mechanism to select what's important. In other words, stability requires attention.
Okay, so let's walk through how this actually works, because it's like a beautiful chain reaction. It all starts with attention. That process allows a system to prioritize certain constraints, the rules and relationships that are vital for its survival. This prioritization then creates these reinforcing repeating patterns. The theory calls them resonance patterns. And it's these powerful resonance patterns that ultimately build the stable, complex structures like a living cell or you or me that can exist and thrive so far from simple, boring equilibrium.
And that brings us to the grand hypothesis, the treasure at the end of our map. Attention isn't just something that conscious minds do. It might be the fundamental mechanism that actually generates stability in all complex living systems. It's the engine that drives emergence itself.
So, what does this all mean? What are the implications? If this hypothesis is even remotely correct, it's way more than just another theory. It could be a whole new meta-theory, a completely new lens for understanding the basic architecture of the world around us. I mean, what would you even call a theory this big? A universal theory of attention? Maybe attentional emergence theory? Whatever name it ends up with, this way of thinking could kick off a whole new chapter in science, one that finally unifies our understanding of life, intelligence, and maybe even consciousness itself. So I'll leave you with this final, really provocative question. We usually think of attention as something that we do, but what if it's something the universe is? What if this process of selective amplification, this thing we're calling attention, is the fundamental operator that shapes everything from our own minds to the structure of reality itself? Now that is a powerful idea to think about.